All right, let's turn to some analysis. Now, Professor Sethulego Matebesi has weighed in on this. He penned an opinion piece where he suggests that the growing list of new parties is making democracy more complex. Prof, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on.
Hi, good evening, and it's good evening to the viewers.
Let's start with this idea of saying, well, we will not form coalitions or enter into coalitions until after elections. But we are talking at this particular point. I mean, how does that play out as far as voters are concerned? Because you are saying, vote for us on the basis of this ideology and this policy and this manifesto, but maybe at a later stage we might group up with other parties with a different kind of direction.
Yes, your question, a very good one, by the way, raises several issues. And the first issue is it not good for South Africa that perhaps out of what has been happening at local government in terms of these chaotic collaboration between political parties, that at least now they've got an opportunity to engage before the elections. But another level, and that is the level where I strongly believe yet it's indicative of the disregard of the electorate. If I want to go and vote for Party X, I would want to know at this stage what kind of alliances, partnerships will this party form? Because you vote for a party, a stand-alone entity, and suddenly 2 weeks after the election, this party is in bed with the very same party that you completely, as a voter, have a strong stance against. And those are the kind of things that I think South Africans have relegated too much power to our political parties, and that's why they see nothing wrong in, not seeking another mandate from the electorate, but deciding on their own who to go into some of these partnerships.
The attitudes of the various parties also quite telling. I mean, if you listen to the conversation with the ACDP, they'll tell you that, well, we are not a newcomer here. We've been here before, right? Which in a way also extends to how they interact with each other within these coalitions, where they will want to assert their own way, in a sense, even within those multi-party coalitions. And this is what has seen these coalitions crumble.
Yes, most definitely. I mean, even if I was a foreign national listening to the deputy president of the ACDP, he came forward as somebody who, it's almost like take it or leave it. And it's just but one party, which also just recently, as he correctly stated, joined the so-called partnership between these multi-parties. But the question is, you've got one party making such public pronouncements, very boldly stating that, look, if we don't get our way, then forget about it. Already that tells you that we are in for a ride. And I don't know what kind of ride are we setting ourselves up for. But I will always take the route to say that this country has been formed on the basis of negotiation, interaction between different nations, parties. And we should celebrate that. But we should also be open-minded to say that we should not now believe that we have found a solution to some of the challenges that we face in South Africa with this multi-party structure that have been formed by the opposition parties.
A lot of the new parties, you say in your piece, have not had their internal structures, democratic structures, put to the test. Is it adequate enough to say, well, they've gone to a policy conference, they've had others a consultative kind of process where they got policy inputs from the public, they had a few gatherings. Is that enough of a test of the party's internal democratic structures and whether they are reputable enough?
Not at all. I'm going to make a footmark remark here and to say, if you look at religion, power, or rather politics in the wrong hand is the most destructive forces that you can ever have. Look at what is happening in the world. Most wars are in the name of a certain religion. And it's the same with power, it's the same with politics, where you find that key leaders who have found problems somewhere else in their political party suddenly will go and form another political party. But that's where the problem starts with our politics in South Africa. If you look at the number of political parties, nothing wrong. Our constitution does allows that. But at the end of the day, you've got too many parties also being set up, launched around an individual. And that's where the problem is, that you need to follow, you need to pray for your bread for this particular leader. And if anything else, you are out. And that's where the internal democratic structures of these entities will in future crumble because of all these undemocratic principles, where it seems as if such political parties is centered around the one who formed the party.
Have we drawn any lessons, do you think, from the opportunistic leadership that we have seen exploiting the horse trading for their own benefits, at least in the local municipalities? Have we learned enough lessons there to not render national government dysfunctional because of that same situation which we saw playing out at local government?
Well, it's going to be very difficult to respond to your question, because the question is who. I think who has to learn from this, because I don't think our leaders will ever learn. We are pretty much still, and these are the things that we've been told to shy away from. Politics of the stomach, even your staunch so-called political parties which in public will promote themselves as the ones who advances the fight against corruption. They are the ones behind the scenes who does things which are completely against what the basic principles of democracy. So for me, yes, perhaps the voters have learned, but we have not yet reached the stage in South Africa where suddenly you will have a large proportion of voters who will come out and say, we are now going to punish Party X based on their performance and based on their engagement and based on how they disregarded and respected us at local government. We haven't yet reached that stage. So yes, people do take note, the citizens, but whether they're going to respond at the ballot box, I don't think that is going to happen. And for our leaders, yes, perhaps there has been lessons, but are they going to take that lessons forward? I don't think so, because we're pretty much still entangled into what I've called politics of the stomach.
Yeah. Here's another layer of complexity here, is what you say is a lack of transparency. For example, you have a party that has a particular view on transformation, right, and how they want to approach transformation, merit-based, they'll tell you, and they don't believe in quotas, don't believe in things like triple BEE and so on and so forth, coming together with other parties who otherwise would support transformation. Others, in fact, they are called transformation movements coming into this multi-party charter. And we are not really sure about what agreement then are they reaching with this other party that has a varying view of transformation to theirs. And how are we to know what the outcome is going to be?
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult, but I also do understand where some of these parties, there will be national priorities, where I strongly believe that most of these opposition parties will agree upon. But there will be definitely certain issues, certain values, standpoints where I strongly believe parties may differ. And it all depends on, how are they going to compromise. But as we've heard from the previous discussions that we had from the ACDP, it seems as if they are not ready to compromise on certain, not only on certain things, on most of their principles. And that is going to make it very problematic for this multi-party going forward. And one just hope that at least they will find common ground. But it is going to be very difficult, especially if you look at the ideologies of the political parties that are part of this so-called coalition.
And what does this spell then? I mean, maybe we are counting our eggs before they hatch, as the ACDP says. We really don't know what is going to happen, what the outcome will be. But if you listen to them, they strongly believe in an ANC that is going to be less than 50%. And so if that indeed is the reality, what kind of outcome are we going to be left with?
Yeah, well, we can talk about two outcomes. Outcome of an ANC winning with a slight majority and an ANC just getting slightly below 50%. But for me, it will just be, once again, the African National Congress dictating the terms. And history has never lied. Go and look at the electoral support of the Democratic Alliance, the largest party within this multi-party structure. And then you add up all this. So for me, it's still a far-fetched dream for the opposition. There's absolutely nothing wrong that they do. In fact, we should commend them for coming together, but I strongly believe that I can't see how they will now be taking over the government in 2024. The African National Congress will still dictate terms, and they've got the means and the ways to do that. They will be dishing out the deputy ministry positions to parties to jump onto that bandwagon to join the African National Congress. We've seen that numerous times. So these are the kind of scenarios that is going to play out. So for me, I can't see this multi-party forum, whatever they're going to do in terms of their election campaign, now suddenly having a stronghold over the African National Congress, unless if we can talk about miracles in the South African political landscape. It's not going to happen in 2024.
Prof, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. That's Professor Sethulego Matebesi.